You don't have to engage with every movement of your partner, especially in the grading, right? I don't want to speculate, but I think Kendo being a somewhat alternative activity in the first place is sometimes attracts people that are have a preference towards participating in things in an alternative fashion. I think it's getting closer to Japanese Kendo for a couple of reasons. One is obviously Japanese Kendo is closer to Europe than it's ever been. I'm sure this is the same for America and other countries as well. Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. We've got plenty of questions this week. My voice is almost back. I'm almost back to normal. I'm at like 95 HP rather than the usual 100. I was like 75 HP last week, 50 the week before. I'm at like 95. I'm at that stage now where, you know, you're about to go through to the next level, to the final boss, and you look at your HP, you're at 95. Think, I can do this. I can do this. That's where we are right now. All right, so still a little bit croaky. Still got my glass of water. My glass is half full, not half empty. And we are ready to go. So before we jump to the questions, don't forget, like, share, subscribe. Satisfy the YouTube ninjas. Help us grow the Kendo population by 256 gajillion people in the next 4.2 gigaseconds, whatever the smallest unit of seconds is. Do all that stuff. We are live on Instagram right now as well. Okay, so I'm looking here whilst we're recording on YouTube. I'm looking here whilst I'm recording or live streaming on Instagram. If this is Kendo Rant, by the way, we are filming Kendo Rant and streaming live to Instagram whilst filming. So if you have questions you want to throw in there whilst we're answering the questions, pop them in the comments and I'll do them as we go along. Okay, so before we jump to them, subscribe to our Instagram, by the way. Follow our Instagram. I think that's the right social network terminology. And follow us on TikTok as well. But most importantly, shop at KendoStar.com. KendoStar is the best Kendo equipment website in the galaxy, universe, multiverse, megaverse, miniverse, eververse, everyverse, neververse, everywhere, all the time. KendoStar is the best. Now, of course, I would say that because I own the place, but it's true. All right, everyone agrees with us. Don't buy twice. Buy right first time round and shop at KendoStar.com. Okay. Excuse me. Right, let's get to these questions, shall we? Right, first one. It's a long one. Okay, right, it is a long one. Okay, right, let's read this out. Hello, Fish Sensei. I'm currently preparing for my 4th Dan exam this summer. I feel fairly confident in my skills and chances of passing. After 2 recent Jigekos, I've received some interesting feedback that made me reflect. And I'm wondering what conclusions I should draw from it. Apologies in advance for the long question. That's okay. It's okay. We started, so we'll finish. During my last Jigeko with a clubmate who already holds 4th Dan, I had trouble taking the initiative and responding with my own semi to his semi. After the Keiko, he told me that this kind of Kendo I showed, I wouldn't pass because I was doing Machiken. We'll get to Machiken in a minute. However, from my perspective, our intention felt like this. He entered with a very strong semi and center control. I responded with my own semi, and then he would almost immediately launch a men attack. In those cases, I usually responded with Suriyage men or another Ojiwaza, and so it went on back and forth without much conversation between our shinais. In the end, there's a fairly even number of successful men strikes from him and Ojiwaza from me. Yes, I do feel he dictated a very fast and intense pace, and he had better center control. But from my point of view, the best strategy was to take advantage of the predictability in his timing, which did allow me to land several effective techniques. Interestingly, in the previous training session, I had Jigeko with a friend who's also 3rd Dan and likely to take the exam with me. In that Keiko, it was fairly easy for me to dominate. A large height advantage probably helped. It does. And this time I was attacking much more often. That was mainly because I didn't feel any real semi from her, and I attacked whenever I sensed an opportunity, which happened quite often. Most of the time, I wasn't wrong, and she rarely succeeded in executing her techniques. After Keiko, she pointed out that I fight too aggressively for a grading, and that I attack too much, and we might both struggle at the exam if we fail to show any real conversation between us. So in these two Jigeiko sessions, I received feedback from completely opposite perspective. I'm not sure. Anyway, I personally understand it this way, that I attack when I feel an opening, and I use strategy adapted to my opponent. Am I understanding this correctly, or should I rather aim to establish semi-ai more deliberately, regardless of my opponent, and aim to give the Jitsuki a more evenly balanced and controlled character? Okay, so situation is, you're going for fourth dan soon. And you've done Keiko with two people in your club, one who's already fourth dan, one who's third dan, and also going for fourth dan probably the same time as you. Right. There's two things here, right? First thing is, what about, I'm curious as to what your seniors are telling you, all right? Because when you're practicing, when you're third dan, you're practicing with the fourth dan, that's still Gokaku Geiko, right? That's still Keiko between peers, really. That's not Hikitate Geiko, right? Where or Shiro Geiko, where the sensei gives you the Keiko, all right? The third dan, fourth dan gap isn't big enough for that. So the thing is, you have to show some understanding of purpose and rationale, some idea of what's called DI when you're taking fourth dan. All right, your attacks can't be random. And the first thing you noted was that the first person, the fourth dan person who's already fourth dan, said that what you're doing appeared to be machiken. Machiken means the waiting sword. All right, so like when you're just waiting for your opponent or your partner to strike. So you can do the ojiwaza, which isn't the correct way to do the ojiwaza. Ojiwaza has to be done by you doing like the semi and getting them to hit in a way, or them, you creating the opportunity properly. But I don't think they're mega strict on that fourth dan, but it isn't irrelevant. Let's put it that way. Now, I get this question quite a lot, like not necessarily on the show, but like in person, people testing for fourth dan. Because fourth dan's a bit of a barrier, right? Fourth dan's a bit of a barrier because you have to now show that you can do more than just a basic Kihon, right? And do you know what? I think this isn't relevant to this question, but I think it's important. I think a lot of people struggle with fourth dan because they get to third dan and then they focus a lot on what they believe they're supposed to do for the fourth dan exam. But what they tend to do is, or what they can be at risk of doing, is then neglecting like everything else that came before that, right? So, and like their Kihon kind of goes a bit out the window, right? The grading criteria for fourth dan states that you have to have that sort of understanding of the BI and stuff. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll pull it up in a second. On top of everything previous, which is the understanding of Kihon and the grasp of the basic technique, right? So that's all very important still. Now, that isn't related to what you said, but I do know it's a big problem. And then what a lot of people ask me is they'll say, right, well, look, I'm trying to show this conversation. I'm trying to show this DI, this connection with my partner, but they're just rushing in and attacking. They're just running in and hitting randomly. And then that's making me fail. Not really how it's working. All right. It's not really how it's working. It is, but it's not what's making you fail. Because what people tend to do is they go, oh, this is a grading, this is a grading. When they hit, I have to hit or I have to do something. So then they fall into the rhythm of just matching the other person. And then, of course, it's not a two-way conversation or anything like that. You're just following the lead of the other person, right? Which sounds a little bit like what might be happening here, all right? When you're saying that the partner is just stepping in and hitting men quite aggressively, quite a lot, and then in response, you're just doing the suriage and stuff like that. Now, that's fine and everything. That's fine and everything to do, But like, if you just keep repeating that, yeah, it just looks like you're kind of matching their pace. So here's one of the things, and it's a bit of a controversial thing that I talked about before, was, it's all right. You don't have to engage with every movement of your partner, especially in the grading, right? If you like, you get to your this distance, you come to your Issoku this way, and then they just start hitting, right? I mean, maybe that's not even what happens. You come up from something, and then you just run in and hit, right? You don't have to panic to match them, right? You just hold your kamae or just move, block, defend their shinai, spoil their technique. Best not to block this way, yeah, but you can defend it, yeah, and control the pace. No, you can't hit me now. No, this isn't the time. Bam, no, not happening, yeah. This sort of thing, and then you can get back in control, all right, and then you can try to like make more of a impression of that you're in control of the matches. You know what I'm saying? It's a bit hard to explain through this. I'll try and make a video about it actually, because I think it's super important. I think it's a really big thing. And on the other side, I think there's something to this as well, where you said that your partner in this that was also third dan, you were able to sort of you were able to hit kind of at will whenever you wanted to, which is great. But like, if you overdo that as well, it kind of doesn't really fit in, or it doesn't allow you to show that you understand the criteria as well. So what I would do is, if I was in that situation, all right, so I've got this opponent that I'm sort of dominating and I can hit them at will, all right? If this is a grading, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that, all right? I'm going to hit them 1 or 2 times in that sort. So I've got my safe ippon banked. She says banked for the grading, right? Yeah, bam, I've got a great one. Okay, bam. Right, now I've realized I can hit this person at will. I don't want to just wail on them. So what I might do next is they're going to want to hit me as well. It's a grading. They're going to want to hit me as well. So I'm going to try and draw that out of them so that I can do my audio as that. And if you do that, it's going to show that you understand that, there's a relationship here between you and your partner, so that a waza can be created. And it's not just you taking advantage of your physical sort of advantages. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's definitely something that's worth keeping in mind as well. I think it's a great question. All right. And I think it's something a lot of people struggle with. And I think it's something that I could probably cover in a video, sort of a more practical way of how to pass your gradings, especially once. I think the 4th dan barrier is huge. So I think that's where it needs to be at. Because of course there's a barrier. Of course, passing 5th dan is hard as well. But like 4th and 5th dan, criteria is similar. The difficulty is that your opponents are better. And then obviously jumping from 5th dan to 6th dan, that's quite a big jump as well. But like, again, 6th dan and 7th dan, it's not the same criteria. It is a bit different, but it is the same criteria actually, but like it's kind of explored at a different level. So yeah. So I think there is some truth in what's been said to you, right? I do think that there's something about sort of the way you're going to tactically use these situations. Are they aggressive? Are they coming at you randomly? Okay, well, don't just match their energy. You have to control, you know what I'm saying? So that's that. And then if they're not as aggressive, if they're somewhat hair sticking up there, that's funny, isn't it? Like Batman. If they're not as sort of aggressive and they're much more passive, and you've got that physical advantage and you can hit them reasonably easily, then you don't need to just exploit that. You can then use that to bank your couple of IP on, and then make sure then you know that you're trying to get a variety and get them to hit you. Try to do Dibana, try to do Orjaws or something like that. Okay, it's not so easy. Fourth dan's hard. I'm sure you'll do great though. I'm sure you'll do great. Right, we've got some comments here. Whilst you're watching along live on Instagram, by the way, if you got a comment, if you want questions, sorry, you want to chuck in, pop them in the comments there, and I'll pick them up as we go along. Right, let's have a look. Are you, sir, coming to the European Championships? Yes, I am coming to the European Championships. This time, I'm coming to the European Championships with KendoStar. We are a sponsor of the championships. We'll have a booth there, so you can come and see us. You can come and meet us. Yeah. What else have we got? Oh, great. I'm on time. Traveling tomorrow for IQ exam. Listening carefully. Okay, so for IQ, it's not quite the same as what we're talking about fourth dan. I'm sorry, you're going to have to deal with me coughing a little bit still. As I said, it's been 3 weeks now that I've been sick. 3 weeks. Well, like I said, I'm in like 95 HP. I think I might have dropped down to 90, but for IQ, you want to be making sure that Ken Tainoichi is up to scratch, all right? Making sure that you're making your strikes with Humigomi, all right? If you do the good strikes with Humigomi, big voice, you'll pass IQ, I'm sure of it, all right? Next one, I have related questions. What do you do in Shiai when the opponent doesn't move or not even seem and keep waiting for you to make a move? I had this situation before. That's great. Easiest opponent, all right? Because they're waiting for you to do something, so it means you're in control of the timing and the situation, all right? Because they're not going to sit there and let you hit them, all right? So obviously they're trying to do something. So you don't have to jump in and hit. You can make them think you're going to hit and see how they react, all right? So I can be like this and then like this and see like this. Oh, they're going to try and do the Kaishido. Oh, is that right? Okay, fine. Well, we'll see what happens next. See if they're going to do that again. Bam, and I'm going to hit the kote or something like that. All right, I'm going to feint to one place and hit another. All right. And when I mean he doesn't move, he stands still, not even moving feet or shinai, at least for almost a minute. But he'll move if he thinks you're going to hit them. They'll move if they think you're going to hit them. Definitely. All right. And if they don't, hit him. Vulcan Glassar. Oh, I know he's Barry. Hi, how are you doing? Hi, Sensei. I live in a desert. I know I've been there. And I tend to lose weight making them. In a high desert, yeah, it is a high desert. Make them rather quickly, lose weight rather quickly. Sorry. Do they make Shinai that have an extra few grams? Thanks. So actually, I think there might be, actually. I think there might be, by special order, a couple that are a few sort of few grams extra. Pop me an email. I'll look into it for you. All right, I'll look into it for you. But worst case, obviously the only option you've got is to like cake them in oil, let it soak in, and hopefully try to retain some of the moisture that way. It's one of the sort of unfortunate things, really, is the obviously Kendo being Japanese, in Japan being not super but pretty humid climate. They don't have that situation so much. So there's not a lot done. Well, there's not a lot that can be done by, right? It's bamboo, right? So I know there used to be the carbon graphite Shinai, but they stopped making those, unfortunately. Next question from the group. Hi, Fisher Sensei. A couple of short questions today. A lot of my Shinai have this bend in the stitching where my left hand is. Does this mean I'm holding the Shinai wrong? I have a tournament this Sunday, and I've been stressing out about getting my Shiai routines in order. In your opinion, does following a strict Shiai routine worth the effort, or is it more placebo and not worth stressing over? All right. So I saw the picture you sent. Right. I forgot to copy it into the thing, but basically, right. It's like what you guys like this, but in reverse. Whose Shinai is this? Oh, it's my daughter's. Right. So here, where this goes straight, instead of this isn't straight. This one's turned as well because she has the opposite habit to what you have, all right? But basically what she has a tendency to do is turn her hand a bit too much this way. But what you're doing is you're turning it outwards this way, which is why the stitching is going in the opposite direction, all right? So the reason that's happening is you've got a small tendency to twist in this direction, all right? So probably there's an issue with the wrist position in the first place, all right? So have a look at that. Now, in terms of your Shiai routines, you know, I don't know what a Shiai routine is, to be honest. Do you mean like the practice before? Do you mean like the practice before, like running up to the Shiai? Or do you mean like something else, like what's the wrong button there? Do you mean like on the day, you know, like the warm up or something like that? I'm not quite sure, you know, where we're coming from with it. But if you're talking about like the run up to the Shiai, like the few weeks before, then I don't know if it's about a strict, you know, where's it gone? Where's this question gone? I might have just deleted this question by accident, but can't have, unless I went past it. Yeah, I think I missed the question. It's okay, we'll come back. If you're talking about like the weeks running up to it, then I wouldn't say it's strict. Like, what I tend to do is if I was, you know, training for the Shiai, I have a sort of plan in mind of what things do I need to improve and what things do I need to polish, all right? Now, obviously, I'm not going to change massive swathes of my Kendo in the weeks running up to a Shiai, but if I can, you know, I'll tune smaller bits, and then in the meantime, you know, on the other side of it, I'll try and sharpen waza that I think one I'm quite good at, or two that I think are particularly useful in the context of the Shiai that I'm about to enter. So these days, like you know, I don't enter many Shiai. But like back in the day when I was probably competing a bit more, and especially in like bigger tournaments where I might be able to research my opponents and stuff like that, then obviously I'd research them, see what was I might work and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't do that these days. But you know, for the time, I wouldn't. So I think the way you phrase the question is really interesting because you said, is it more placebo that's not worth stressing over? If you feel that it puts you in a good mental state or in a good mental place, then it's worth doing. That would be my opinion, right? It's worth doing, okay? Even if it doesn't have make it much of a practical difference. All right, we need to go back a question because I skipped this one by accident. Hello, Vish Sensei's. Considering small and large strikes, to what extent should we bend our elbows before we strike? A club scene is very discouraging of it. Sensei taught one type of koteuchi where we most certainly do and another not. Watching Kendo, I've seen some Kendoka that have very extended arms with a sharp snap of the wrist and forearms rather than instead of bending the elbows. And I've seen in others that they do bend their own elbows to help the snap forward after pulling back a noticeable amount. Do you have to worry about it or pick yay or nay and go with it? 2 years into Kendo, thank you for your time. To some extent, this is very much a case of finding what works for you. But for me, making the big strikes with the shinai, right, I'm from my kamae position and I'm lifting up this way and down this way like this. And my elbows are reasonably in the same position from my kamae as I go up to my huri kaburi up here. And then as I come down, I'm going to flex them as I extend the shinai, okay? What I don't like, personally, for me, it's not. Some people have a tendency to, like, pull the shinai back this way and then down and forward this way. And I don't think that creates a correct datotsu. All right? So for me, it's I don't bend them all that much, but I do relax, use them, then this way. this sort of way, rather than this way and this way, this way, this way. It's not right. Nice and relaxed is how you want to be with it. Okay. We've got comment now. It says, can you tell me, please, how I make the opportunity for ski and Shiai? When we're training, I know how to make it, but I don't know how to sneak in for the opportunity. Can you please explain it for me? So obviously, like, the opportunity for ski and Shiai is really hard to create. It's not so easy. And it's not a case of just like, oh, when they do this, just ski them. Right? It might work a bit against somebody like the last comment that said, oh, my opponent's not reactive in the Shiai. They just stay still and they sort of wait for me to act. Bam, if you ski them then, that might work. That might work. All right. But against a very active player whose footwork is on point and moving around, don't ski them. It's very dangerous. Trust me, I've learned that from experience. All right. It tends to be useful for me. I find it's useful against people who, like you say, are trying to like match again, like waiting, or even like if you get a more experienced player that's trying to do the like hikidashi, try to get you to hit. If they think that you're gonna like hit so they can do some ojuwaza, bam, skiing them can work then. And I say that because sometimes I get hit with ski in that situation. All right, but it's not so easy. It's kind of tough. All right. If I was you, because this is not an uncommon question, right? And obviously it's a kind of question I'd have thought about a lot when I was competing as well, you know, like regularly. But I wouldn't get fixated on trying to score ski in the Shiai, right? Like, it's worth the same as the other points. And often when you can hit ski, you can hit men as well. Often. Not always, but often. All right? So, don't go into the Shiai thinking, right, I'm going to try and score ski, right? Because it probably won't work out, all right? Right? Now, of course, there's players that it does work out for. But, you know. Next one. Dear Sensei, I recall a few years ago, you mentioned that cowhide was used in rather cheap and poor quality kote. I'm now seeing Japanese shops offering Kongyugawa indigo-dyed cowhide, for example, for Dorminate, as a more economic alternative to dyed deerskin, which is becoming more dear, boom, due to shortage of supply. Your views on the use of dyed cowhide will be greatly appreciated. Okay. So, yeah. Right. This is a good question. I'm glad it's come up. Right. So we're talking about materials in the manufacturing of Borgu, right? Deerskin is generally considered the best, but it's expensive. All right. I don't think it's becoming a shortage of supply. I don't think there's a shortage of supply. If there is, I think if there is a shortage of supply or perceived one, I think it's manufactured. There's a lot of deer in Japan. They're culled annually, and that's where the deer leather comes from, because there's too many of them for the ecosystem to handle. That's where we get a lot of the deer skin from. Now, having said that, it's still more expensive, especially than cow leather, because deers are small and cows are big. So, 15, 20 years ago, there was a kind of trend of Borgu companies using indigo-dyed cow hide to replace deer skin because it was cheaper, all right? And it looks kind of similar, all right? It looks kind of similar. And it does when it's new, right? When it's new. The problem with cowhide, it's not good. So cow leather, it's not good with moisture. All right. It's not good to get wet and then dry, wet and then dry, wet and then dry. All right. It gets weak, it cracks and it breaks. So it's a terrible material for kote palms. All right. Or for kote in general. All right. The other thing is it goes shiny. Right. It goes shiny. So like the kote atama and like the reinforcement on the futon, it gets all stiff. It gets uncomfortable, and it's not durable. So we've never used it. That being said, for the door mune, it's a pretty decent substitute for real deerskin, because real deerskin is very expensive. All right. And the mune doesn't like get, especially on the front, doesn't get soaked wet through that often. And it doesn't get hit that much either. All right. So actually it's a reasonably decent alternative for door mune. All right. And it's something we're actually looking into as well at KendoStar. I think it's something we'll probably add to our lineup soon. I've been a bit reluctant because I've been quite hard line on how we never use cow leather, because it's so rubbish for the kote palms and the other parts of the burger. But admittedly, for the door mune, it's not too bad. It's quite good actually. It looks good, and it's durable. And like I say, because it's not getting wet all the time and then drying out like a kote palms would or something, then I think it's a decent substitute. All right, so you'll probably see it pop up on KendoStar soon. And we can already do it. If you've got a custom burger in mind, you want a cowhide mune, we can do that. It's no problem. Next one. Lately, I've been encouraged to do more shikake waza, especially during jigeko with sensei. But honestly, I think I've been doing it without semi. Completely mindless. Just charging in. A senpai pointed out that I wasn't even taking the center, and they were right. I was attacking with no mind. But I didn't think that that's what sensei meant when he says, Mushin. I get the banawaza and oji waza. You apply pressure, sense the moment, and strike. But with shikake, I seem to throw all of that out the window. I know it's meant to be when the opponent's mind isn't ready, but maybe it's my mind that's not ready. Still figuring it out. Appreciate any thoughts, and thanks as always for letting me overthink out loud. Look, I think what you're asking here is pretty standard, pretty normal. I don't think it's a big problem. All right. I think when you want to practice the shikake waza, especially against like the seniors, then because you mentioned about jigeko with sensei, try to take the center and then just try to launch the honest strike. Don't try to trick them. Just try and strike with full commitment and intention without fear of receiving the strike. All right. Here's one of the things that I think is like really missed, and I've talked about it a lot, and it's something that I came to realize far too late in my understanding of Kendo. But when you practice with sensei, the point is to get hit, not to hit. All right? You learn from the sensei by having them hit you, right? And I've heard lots of sensei talk about this, and I did the interview with Yuki Ogata sensei, right? Brilliant interview. If you've not watched it, go and watch it on the YouTube because it's well good. You have to excuse my dodgy Japanese in it because I was like super nervous. This is the first video I've done like speaking Japanese, which is a bit dodgy. And I don't read it very well. I don't know how to read enough thing. But anyway, she said in that about her preparation for the 7th Dan Championships. She said one of the things she did was went to practice with lots of sensei, and she said she went to practice with them so that they would hit her, so that she could go and be hit by them, go and be struck by them. Yeah. I went to practice with lots of sensei to receive their strikes. All right. Because that's how you get better. And I heard one Hachidan Hans sensei explain that part of the idea of that is that by doing that, you train your body to not only be able to attack without fear, but also to understand the difference between the times you're supposed to hit and the times you're not supposed to hit, without being afraid of that, that being hit. So it's very very difficult to do that. All right. So when you do your shikakewaza, because I went on a bit of a tangent there, especially against the sensei, all you have to do, step in, take the center, try to have a good footwork, good kamae, try to, affect the seme. And the good sensei will you'll feel when you're supposed to hit, right? And then you go, bow. If you don't feel like, go anyway. But don't rush. Yeah. Everything away. Don't care. And then they'll probably do the kaishidou diwan, right? But it's fine. But maybe 1 out of the 10 times you do that, you'll hit and you'll realize, bam, that was the right one. All right. But it's through masses of repetition of that. All right. But don't stress on it too much. All right. Right. We've got some more comments here. Good day, Mr. Fisher. What's so special about Kurozan leather? I don't know if it's that it's like so special, but basically Kurozan leather that's the black leather that we use as like a standard material for dormant, right? It's used a little bit on other things. Traditionally, right, what that was cow leather that had been hand lacquered with urushi, right? Japanese urushi. Now, the proper temomi Kurozan leather, you can't get anymore because they don't make anymore. I mean, you can get it, but it's super expensive because there's not much of it left, all right? What we use now is a sort of synthesized version. It's still cow leather, but they get that sort of hand lacquered look by pressing it in a machine. And it's good because it's very durable and it's very hard wearing. And obviously it's the original production of it is a part of Japanese culture. All right. And that's what's special about it. Okay. What's behind Nito and Jordan popularity in Europe and why is it good? And is it good to train against them? Of course, it's good to train against them. All right. If you get the opportunity, so that you can increase your understanding of how to deal with it. What's with the popularity of it? Well, I mean, I don't want to speculate, but I think Kendo being a somewhat alternative activity in the first place, sometimes attracts people that are have a preference towards participating in things in an alternative fashion. So that's why it's particularly in Western cultures, and especially whereas in Western cultures we don't have the same sort of societal pressure to fit in with everybody else, which they do in Japan. All right. In Japan, it's generally not a good thing to stand out from the crowd. They don't like it. So lots of people don't like to do it so much. All right. They don't like it so much. All right. A lot of people often quote the old adage, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. And it gets mistakenly attributed to wearing a different coloured door. It's nonsense. It's nothing that's not what it means in the Kendo sense. Actually, lots of people have different coloured door because having a different coloured door, unless you have like a bright pink one, or which exists, by the way, or I have a bright green one, like this colour green. I'd never wear that like outside of my own dojo, and I don't even wear my own dojo much. And I wear some pretty bright coloured door. I've got a bright yellow one as well. Yeah, but that generally isn't considered too much as sticking out because lots of people have different coloured door. But like if you were to have like, I don't know, like red borg or something, that's a bit too much. Do you think the European Kendo, the next question says, do you think European Kendo is getting closer to Japanese Kendo? Yes. Yes, I do. And I think that's good. I think it's getting closer to Japanese Kendo for a couple of reasons. One is obviously Japanese Kendo is closer to Europe than it's ever been. I'm sure this is the same for like America and other countries as well. I'm not digging how my hair's looking on here. Vanity is not good for your Kendo. Anyway, Japanese Kendo is much closer to European Kendo than it used to be. And what I mean by that is not that their Kendo looks like European Kendo. I mean that, like, when I started Kendo in the UK 20 odd years ago, like we had like 2 Japanese sensei visit us a year, and they were the only ones that came. Like there wasn't much support from the Zenkenden. There was no YouTube. Do you know what I mean? Like, whereas now, like, and it wasn't that easy to just travel around Europe either if someone came. Like it wasn't like if there was a seminar with a Hachidan sensei, or not even a Hachidan sensei, a Japanese sensei in, let's say, I don't know, like Germany or Italy or France, wherever, like we didn't know about it. Right? Because it's not like now where information wasn't so freely available. There's no Instagram. Yeah. We have Facebook just about, and YouTube was just getting born, right? So that sort of freedom of information wasn't, or sort of access to information wasn't like it is now. Right. So I think that's had a massive positive impact. And, and there's, every day there's Japanese Kendo going on YouTube. You can watch it. Right. And then I think the second thing is, this is just what I've noticed, right, is like the current generation of like top level European players, shall we say. So let's just say a lot of national teams in Europe now have more Japanese like half Japanese kids in them, right? Not kids, I know, but like my kids are half Japanese, right? And they're my light's gone off, so it's gone a bit dark and shadowy. But anyway, like my kids half Japanese, and now they're joining in the national team and stuff, right? Like when I was competing, there wasn't so many people like that, all right? Whereas in the younger generation, I think there's a lot more. And what that's done as well is, of course, through their family connections or whatever, they've also got more of a connection with Kendo in Japan, which is great because it's raised, like the rising, what's the saying, if the rising tide sort of raises the ships for everybody, right? So it's a great thing. It's a great thing. So yeah. Right, next question. There's nothing more anxiety-inducing than a big tournament shinai check. Other than making sure it has no obvious splinters, what's a good way to make sure shinai passes the check? I tend to tighten the tsuru a lot. Is it normal for the shinai to bend very slightly, or have I done it too tight? All right, don't tighten the tsuru so that the shinai bends. That's too much. All right, it's going to snap during the match. All right. So not so much that the shinai bends, but it wants to be nice and tight. Okay, nice and tight, but not so much that the shinai is bending. In terms of the best way to make sure your shinai passes a shinai check is check it yourself before you take it to the shinai check. All right. Excuse me on the coughing. Still not there. I'm still not there. But I know that sounds super obvious. But when I say that, I mean check every detail. Weigh it. Check your weigh's okay. Check that there's you can't see, like check that you can't see like through the slats like that. Check that you can't see through it like that. Yeah. And weigh it. Measure the chikatoba, right? That's is it 8 centimeters down from here on the widest point? Check it against the regulations. Just triple check them before you take them and you'll be fine. Okay? Okay. We've got one in the questions here. How can I make hikiwaza more effective in keiko? That is a good question. That's a good question. It's hard, right? Because lots of people don't want to engage in hikiwaza in the keiko because sometimes we're in small areas. Sometimes we're, best way, the only real way you can improve hikiwaza, right, is practicing it, right? Is to keep practicing it, okay? And first, you don't have to do it in the jigeko. Practice it in a kihon, right? Get one of your pals in the dojo, someone similar level to you, and say, can we practice some hikiwaza, right? Or yeah, I know you don't have that sort of dynamic in European dojos a lot. So maybe even, I don't know, if you just try to get the chance, right? Maybe even if, like, let's say your dojo does Jigeko and you're doing 3-minute rounds of Jigeko, and you get with someone else who's similar level to you, just say to them for the first 30 seconds, can I just practice some Hikiwaza just before we start, right? Cool. And then when you do your Jigeko, try to do the Hikiwaza when you come to Tsubazeriai. All right? Try to do the Hikiwaza. Now, the thing about Hikiwaza, it's not a case of just when you come to Tsubazeriai, just trying to hit the Hikimen or the Hikido or the Hikigote. You have to think about it like you do with your normal Kendo, right? How are you going to get to that Hitmen, Kote, or Do? All right? If you want to hit the men, you've got to get them to defend their Kote or their Do, right? If you want to hit the Kote, you've got to get them to defend their men. Same with the Do. Right? So you got to think about that a little bit. I've done some videos on it. Give it a watch about the different ideas for types of waza you can use for Hikiwaza, right? And then try them. But I'll give you a tip. You want to stick to trying to use them mainly against your peers when you're doing Keiko with other people at your same level. If you go against like 7th, 8th Dan Sensei, don't start whacking Hikiwaza against them. I don't care, but some people might not like it. All right. Next question. Thanks, sir. By the way, your hair is great. Sorry to no, it's not great, but it'll do. What do you think of Serbian Kendo in general? Now that is an interesting question. All right. It's a bit generic for me to give you a straight answer on. But look, I think that I don't know a lot about Serbian Kendo because I've only been there once. But I think that the Serbian national team, which is all I can really speak to, I've got very passionate Kendo, and I like their spirit, and I've seen them defeat teams that are probably objectively technically better, but because the Serbian team fought much harder, were able to achieve victory. Having said that, I think that that isn't to say that they have a, you know, having said that, I still think that there's some very technically capable players in Serbia. I've seen them, and I think there's some very good Kendo happening from the Serbian players. I haven't seen them recently, to be honest. I can't say super directly, but my impression of them is that they're a very strong team, and they should be taken seriously as a contender in the European Championships, and of course on the world stage as well. I definitely think that. I have done for quite some time, to be honest. I've done matches with the Serbian team and thought they were very strong in those days as well. So good question. Hello, Chris Sensei. First, I'd like to thank you for your contribution for my own Kendo journey, and I've successfully passed my Nidan exam. During the seminar that preceded it with Stroud Sensei, I went through 2 shinai during Godo Geiko. Granted, both of them were Frankenstein shinai, so they were likely on borrowed time anyway, but prior to the seminar, I shaved away all visible splinters and oiled them in advance. However, both of them broke in exact same spot in the mono-ichi on the same day. My question is, when repurposing shinai take, is it better to reassemble the shinai with the staves on the same position they were at in relation to the suru? Do the fibers of the bamboo become more accustomed to flexing in the direction you are striking, and does moving them to a different position shorten their lifespan? In my experience, no. I don't think that that's what's going to shorten the lifespan or not. And in fact, it can be a good idea to sort of rotate your shinai every so often, right? So that it's not just getting the same sort of stress and damage in the same area over and over again. But what you've got to remember is, you know, it's hard to say. And it might be something to do with the way you're doing Kendo. It might be something to do with the way you put the shinai together. More likely, if you're talking about shinai you've put together from other broken ones, it's just luck of the draw, right? It's just luck of the draw. When you make a shinai out of broken ones. Look, don't get me wrong. I know there's going to be some people out there that are like, no, I've made ones out of broken ones and they've lasted me ages. But generally, you're not going to get a long lifespan out of them. It's already a shinai that's past its lifespan, right? What you've done is you've taken a shinai that's already dead because it's past its lifespan. You've deconstructed it and merged it together with another dead shinai, right? So it's already, at that point, it's already been through a lot. Yeah. And then you're putting it through more. So it's not surprising they're not going to last long. Do you know what I mean? Now, of course, I know sometimes you get the shinai that break earlier than you expect, but, the shinai generally, they're made from natural materials. You can't tell, right? But I don't think I've had the sort of Frankenstein shinai where I put it together and then it's lasted me 6 months, something like that. Now, granted, I don't break shinai very often at all. So, I haven't got a massive amount I haven't put a lot of research into that subject. Let's put it that way. Okay. So there we go. We're at the end of the show, folks. We've been doing this for nearly an hour now. Thank you very much for joining me, both on YouTube, live on Instagram. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. I'm sure you're already following us if you're watching this live stream. But follow us on Instagram, you guys on YouTube. You guys on Instagram, subscribe to us on YouTube. Both of you follow us on TikTok. Okay. My Kendo stuff says, damn, I miss. You got a question you can ask me right now, I'll answer you. You've got 30 seconds whilst I do the outro. Follow us on TikTok, all the social stuff. We're putting a lot of effort into it. You probably noticed. I'm sure you have. We're putting out YouTube shorts. We're putting out stuff on TikTok. We're putting out stuff on Instagram. All that stuff is coming out. So make sure you follow us on the socials. But most importantly, shop at KendoStar. Don't buy twice, buy right first time round. We'll see you next time. Okay, send us a question next week. Okay, how do you explain Zanshin to beginners in Borga so they understand? Zanshin is the concept of making sure you keep yourself aware so you don't get struck again, all right? It's not the idea of hitting and running off into the distance. That is Kihon to practice your Ash Sabaki, all right? That is Kihon to practice your Ash Sabaki, all right? Zanshin is the idea of keeping yourself aware so that after you hit, you don't receive a strike afterwards, all right? That's generally the simple way of putting it. Okay, the strike has a beginning, semi, middle, hit, end, Zanshin, finish. Okay, that's the simplest way I would put it. Okay, there we go. Done. Squeeze the last question in at the end there. Right, I'm going. Have a great weekend. See you all next time. Bye-bye.